have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Tuesday, April 22nd. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us here. It is the Bill Press Show. We are here in your nation's capital on Capitol Hill. About the only people around on Capitol Hill these days. The House and the Senate are still out of town on their extended Easter break. But we're here. We've got it covered. We'll bring you the news on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. Well, President Obama, fresh from yesterday's big Easter egg roll at the White House. Oh, my God, you should have seen all the kids and families there yesterday. Today, he goes off to Oso, Washington to view the damage still and talk to some of the victims of that big landslide a couple of weeks ago. And then he will head off to Japan. First stop on his extended Asian tour. He'll be going to Japan, to South Korea, to the Philippines, and to Malaysia to reestablish the United States as a Pacific nation, to cement our ties with our allies there and to work on new trade agreements in the Pacific. Very, very important trip. The president will be gone almost a full week. Yesterday, up in Boston, the marathon, a huge success. Everything went right. There were 36,000 runners, well over 1 million spectators, no problems at all with security. And then as the icing on the cake, an American won the men's marathon for the first time in 31 years. Boston is back. America is back. And the Department of Justice, a big surprise announcement yesterday that they are going to review and look for change in our sentencing guidelines for non-violent drug offenses. Way, way overdue. So much to talk about this morning. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Good to have you with us this Tuesday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Happy Earth Day. How about it? Here we go. Hug a planet today. Good morning, everybody. Great to see you. Yeah, our planet. Let's take better care of it. It's Tuesday, April 22nd. So good to see you today. Welcome to the Bill Press Show. And here we go, ready to go from our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. We own our nation's capital, and we got it covered. This end of Pennsylvania Avenue, whatever's happening around the Congress, not much these days. And the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue, whatever's happening down at the White House, was there yesterday with hordes of people for the Easter egg roll and for the briefing yesterday. And President Obama jets off today for a 1-week-long, not a series of meetings, let's say, not a summit, series of meetings in the Pacific on his way to Japan and to South Korea, to Malaysia, and to the Philippines. Lots to talk about today. Boston Marathon, a huge success yesterday, and unfortunately the Nats lost yesterday to the Angels.
Heartbreaker.
Total
heartbreaker.
It was. They went into the ninth inning ahead, didn't they? Or eighth or ninth inning.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we'll bring it all to you on every front and open up the phones and let you tell us what you think about it all. Good to see you today. We are here with you on your local progressive talk radio station. We're here with you, for many of you, all across this great land of ours, also on Free Speech TV, on your satellite Dish Network, DirecTV, and worldwide here with you on the video stream at youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. So, hey, you can't miss us. Peter Ogburn, Elisa Murphy. Hello. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Here we go with Alicia Cruz there, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Bolding is back today as our videographer. Good to have Cyprian back on the job here, keeping us looking good.
Always nice to have Cyprian back in the big chair. I'm glad
keeping track of Cyprian's days off here.
I'm glad he worked things out with his parole officer.
Yes, I am too. He's getting as bad as Dan Henning taking these extra days off here. We're gonna. Anyhow, the whole team here this morning is good. And yesterday, it was a festive day at the White House. It is as the president told the crowd when he welcomed the crowd yesterday. They have a lot of things going on at the White House, right? There are a lot of events. Yesterday, by far, the most people of the year.
Happy Easter. This is the biggest event that we have at the White House all year long. And it is our most fun event.
30-some thousand people yesterday.
That's a lot, man.
Huge crowd.
Yeah, the fox was in hiding. The fox didn't. Apparently, no sighting of the fox yesterday during the Easter egg roll. But I'm sure he came out afterwards looking for any goodies that were left over.
I'm sure, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you know that. And the president got into it. He and the First Lady both read a book to assembled kids. The president read Where the Wild Things Are, right?
Classic book.
Classic kids book. And he really got into it.
The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another. Look at him. Do you see him? His mother called him Wild Thing. Mm-hmm. And Max said, I'll eat you up. So he was sent to bed without eating any supper. That very night in Max's room, a forest grew. And grew. And grew. This looks like a wild thing right here.
He points out one little kid, looks like a wild thing right here. Yeah, no, he really got into it yesterday. It was fun. Today, our Tuesday twin guests, Arthur Delaney and Igor Volsky, will be along. Start off the day. Very excited about that. And then we'll be talking to Tyson Slocum from Public Citizen about Earth Day and about Keystone Pipeline and what happened with all of that. And yesterday, the Department of Justice, some good news on the drug policy front. It's about time. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Bill, I have some bad news for you because I know you are a Washington, D.C. license holder you're going to
Yes.
have to go to the DMV and replace your license.
I saw that article. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
Everyone.
That's just
Why?
There's no
Why?
way around it. Well, here's the deal.
My license, I checked yesterday. It's not up until
2019?
2019.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, here's the issue. The federal government put some new regulations on driver's licenses, and it includes the Real ID, this new program that's supposed to be able to keep your identity safer. So the Real ID licenses have already been fitted for a lot of states, but it has not been fitted for Washington, D.C. And so all 540,000 residents of Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, are going to have to go and get brand new driver's license, even though yours doesn't expire for another 5 years.
Well, I got news for them. I'm not going. They can come to my house and renew my license.
It's not going to be a fun day.
I'm not going over there.
You have until October 1st to make it happen.
I'm busy.
And if you
I don't have any time between now and October.
And
1st.
if you don't get it done before then, let me know how that works out for you. If you get pulled over, I know you would never get pulled over.
I'd never
for
get
speeding.
pulled
You
over.
rarely
No.
get
I know that
pulled
would
over.
Never happen.
Never happened.
But if it did, you might be in some trouble.
Officer.
Yeah.
Officer.
Spring commencement speakers are being announced all around the country. University of South Carolina Gamecocks announced a big one yesterday. Vice President Joe Biden.
No kidding.
He's going down
Oh.
to South Carolina.
I thought it might be Stephen Colbert, the prodigal son. Coming
Yes,
back.
exactly. He's a College of Charleston guy. But from South Carolina. Joe Biden making the trip to University of South Carolina in Columbia to give the commencement address.
Well,
no word
you
on
know.
what that means to 2016.
I was just going to say Iowa,
Say.
New Hampshire, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Apple Maps may have found the Loch Ness Monster.
In Loch Ness?
Yes, if you look over Loch Ness on Apple Maps, there is an image that looks like some sort of marine life, like it could be a blue whale or something. It looks like it has a large head and fins and a tail in the water. Now, some people say
It's not the Malaysian plane, is it?
You know what? It could very well be.
Does it have wings?
That's a very good point, Bill.
Breaking
That is a
news.
very good point. Some people are saying it could be the monster. Other people say it's the wake from a boat out on the loch. But we've tweeted a picture. If you're following us at BP Show, you can go take a look at it, and you can decide for yourself. The truth is out there.
In other news, Bigfoot was seen at the White House yesterday. Right. Yeah, big news on the drug front yesterday, and the news. It's a lead story in the Washington Post this morning. Clemency push is on for drug offenders. That was one of the big topics we talked about at the briefing yesterday with Jay Carney. It could result in the freeing of thousands of people who are in federal prison today for nonviolent drug crimes. Now, let's back up here and put this in context. And, of course, looking for your comments about what this all means at 866-55-PRESS. Okay, well, the context is if you want to identify, put it that way, the one government program in our lifetime that is the biggest waste of time, money, and resources, it is without doubt the war on drugs. It started under Ronald Reagan, right? So back in 1980, became the favorite project of Nancy Reagan. Remember? Just say no. I mean, what an idiotic program. And since then, so this is 34 years ago, folks, right? Since then, we have sunk billions, I'd say trillions of dollars into this mindless effort, thinking that we could ever eradicate the drug supply and totally clean up the United States from any use of illegal substances. We've had a White House drug czar with a huge staff, right? A member of the president's cabinet. Countless law enforcement officers worldwide in this interdiction effort. Onshore, offshore, in the air, all around America's cities. And what's the result of it been? Zero. I mean, zero impact. The number of the demand is just as great. The supply is just as great. The number of people using illegal drugs hasn't gone down at all. It has been a total bust. And it's been clear for a long time, that the system isn't working. I mean, cops are spending too much time on this. Judges are spending too much time on this. Our prisons are choked, overcrowded with people who are there for nonviolent crimes. It's been clear for a long time. And a lot of people have been talking for a long time about the fact this ain't working. We got to try something different, namely to treat drug offenses not as a medical problem, not as a criminal problem, to get people treatment, not sock them away for some mandatory sentence in prison, and take an entirely different approach to this. Well, finally, something is happening. Yesterday, the Attorney General, Eric Holder, making this announcement on a whole new approach to people already now incarcerated who have no connection, so they're there for drug crime, nonviolent drug crimes, and no connection to gangs, no connection to large-scale drug operations, no connection to dealers, and not dealers at all. They're caught with a couple of ounces of coke or pot or whatever. Here's the Attorney General.
The White House has indicated it wants to consider additional clemency applications to restore a degree of justice, fairness, and proportionality for deserving individuals who do not pose a threat to public safety. The Justice Department is committed to recommending as many qualified applicants as possible for reduced sentences. There are still too many people in federal prison who were sentenced under the old regime and who, as a result, will have to spend far more time in prison than they would if sentenced today for exactly the same crime.
Yeah, a lot of these mandatory sentencing laws, and the Attorney General said it's going to take a couple of years, and they're going to review all these cases, people who've requested clemency, they're going to review all these cases under these new guidelines, make recommendations to the White House, and the president could really end up being the pardoner in chief and set a new record for the number of people that he has pardoned under his presidency.
I mean, when you look at the number of people that are serving life sentences for having some pot.
Yeah. I don't know whether they're life, but long sentences.
No, there are some people who are serving long, who have been caught with pot a couple times.
Right.
And then they go away for life in prison. And then in a couple of states now, it's legal to buy it.
Yeah.
You can't justify it anymore.
No. It doesn't add up. And by the way, unlike the Keystone Pipeline, where the State Department acted and the White House said, "Oh, no, we didn't know what they were doing. We had no idea." Oh, God. What? The State Department did something? Yeah, they denied any involvement with that. Yesterday, they were very clear. They wanted us to know that the White House told the Department of Justice that they ought to do this. Here's Jay Carney at the briefing.
The president wants to make sure that everyone has a fair shot under the clemency system, and he has asked the Department of Justice to set up a process aimed at ensuring that anyone who has a good case for commutation has their application seen and evaluated thoroughly. The number of commutations that are granted will depend entirely on the number of worthy candidates. And in terms of how many deserving candidates are out there, I couldn't begin to speculate, but there's a process in place that reflects the president's belief that everyone should have a fair shot under the system for consideration.
So the president wants everyone to have a fair shot, and he told Attorney General Eric Holder to do this. Love to know what you think about it. 866-55-PRESS. I got to tell you, I not only applaud this, I think this is fabulous. I think this is long overdue. It's certainly the way to go. But you know what? As far as I'm concerned, it's only the beginning. It's only the beginning. I think this will only be successful if we admit up front. I want to hear the president say it. The war on drugs, total failure, total bust. I'm ending the war on drugs. He ended the war on terror, right?
Yeah.
So let's end the war on drugs. Just get rid of it. Fire the freaking drug czar. It's not doing anything anybody. Get rid of the whole operation, okay? And why not? Stand up like George Shultz, William F. Buckley Jr., and other conservatives have and say it's time to legalize drugs, just like we have legalized pot. So I think this is a great move, but I think it's only really, I hope, the beginning of a more sensible drug policy. Let's talk about it. Tuesday morning, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 25 minutes after the hour, Arthur Delaney from Huffington Post joining us in the next segment, as he does every Tuesday morning. We're talking about this major initiative yesterday announced by Attorney General Eric Holder at the direction of the president himself to do a full-scale review of sentencing guidelines for nonviolent drug offenders and to review the clemency requests of many people now in federal prison. Of course, you have all these state prisons is another problem. Hopefully, states will follow the lead of the federal government on this. But to review all these clemency requests from people in federal prisons that they were unfairly sentenced, they didn't really get a fair shot, and particularly there are people there who've been under old sentencing guidelines are serving way too much time. They wouldn't get that much time today under some more lenient guidelines. The Washington Post reporting this morning that Justice Department officials believe that the most severe penalties should be reserved for serious, high-level, or violent drug traffickers. Makes sense to me. Melvin, out in South Bend, Indiana. What do you think, Melvin?
Well, I think it's about time it's spring here, Bill.
Yeah.
Certainly,
It finally made it to South Bend.
Oh, yes, it did. And I want to comment quickly on the new clemency initiative, if they implement it. My nephew was 34 years old, Bill, 2 degrees, one in a master's in business administration, a bachelor's in civil engineering, had 8 grams of cocaine. He was a user.
Yeah.
They gave him 31 years.
Oh,
First
God.
offense.
Oh, God.
31. And now they're using him to run the facility since he's an engineer and paying him $15.20 more than anybody I know of in the penitentiary.
Good Lord. Yeah.
But that's something that should be looked at. And yes, I would love for him to get out. He's too smart. He made a mistake. He was a user, not a dealer.
Got it. No, but that's the textbook case, Melvin, of what we're talking about here, right? Somebody who is making potential for making a great contribution to society, to his community, and to his family, and away for 31 years for a first-time offense of 8 grams of cocaine. I mean, just doesn't make any sense. So I think this is really, really good news, and it's going to end up being one of the best things that Obama does during his entire presidency.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Next.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 33 minutes after the hour now, Tuesday morning, April 22nd, coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. We're right here on Capitol Hill, and we're brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America. The good men and women of LIUNA, that's what they call them. Under President Terry O'Sullivan, we all live better because of their great work, building a better America, and that's their website, LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A, buildsamerica.org. Check it out. And it's a Tuesday morning. We are pleased to welcome back a resident of Capitol Hill, editor of HuffPost Hill. You're a champion of the middle class and working class families across America. Arthur Delaney. Hello, Arthur. And an all-around good guy. All right.
Thank you, Bill.
Now, Arthur, we've been talking about a major initiative yesterday. I just want to get your comments on this before we move on to some other stuff. On the part of the administration, the White House, the president directing the Attorney General to do a review of all clemency requests from people who are in prison on nonviolent drug offenses. About time, don't you think?
It's a wonderful thing.
I know you've written
totally
about this.
About time. I have written a little bit about the presidential clemency power. You've heard of checks and balances, right?
Yeah, right.
This is an important power that the executive has to send a message to lawmakers, is partly what it does. When you pardon or commute the sentences of people convicted under laws that you don't really like, you send a message to lawmakers saying, I don't like this law. And President Obama has been historically stingy with his pardon power.
Yep.
He has pardoned just so few people, fewer than George W. Bush at this time in his presidency. And people all along have been saying, when is Obama going to get on this? We know how he feels about marijuana, having used marijuana himself, and clearly realizes it's not like a dangerous drug. And now I think what they're going to do, according to what they've said, is potentially pardon thousands of people who are serving unfair crack cocaine sentences and other nonviolent
and pot
drug
sentences
offenses.
too.
And pot
Right.
sentences,
As Attorney General said yesterday, no connection to gangs, no connection to dealers, not dealers themselves, no connection to large scale operations. Just somebody who happened to peer pressure or whatever.
Yeah. Now he's only pardoned up to now a few dozen people.
Right.
So thousands is a big deal.
I was just going. He could be the all-time record holder for pardons if this goes through. Thousands.
I haven't looked at the chart recently, but there, past presidents like back in history have pardoned a lot of people, and the stinginess has really been a thing of modern presidents. But yeah, he could change that, and this would be good because these are ridiculous laws,
Absolutely.
racist laws.
Yes, that too. I hope it's the beginning of the whole end of the war on drugs, which I think is the single most wasteful and meaningless government program we've ever had in our history.
It's got bipartisan unpopularity, and I think you're right.
Yeah, but unfortunately, it has had bipartisan support. Even Democratic presidents have continued this stupid drug czar in the White House. I don't even know. I guess we still have one, but Obama doesn't. He's not up there as big.
Well, they're not like they're doing every reasonable
Barry
thing.
McCaffrey, I think, was Bill Clinton's drug czar, and they used to trot him out at all these events.
The Obama administration does continue insisting that marijuana is as dangerous as heroin.
Which is absurd.
They could also unilaterally reschedule marijuana, which is to take it off out of the class of drugs like heroin that are automatically.
They could do that unilaterally. They could do that by executive order.
Reschedule marijuana. And our HuffPost's Ryan Riley, our justice reporter, has actually talked to Eric Holder about this. And Holder says, we like that idea, but we would rather have Congress do it. Because if Obama if they did that, they would have some predictable backlash.
And
since there is bipartisan momentum for criminal justice reform, I think it's probably wise for them not to do too much by themselves.
It's this weird gray area right now, right, where the president's out there giving interviews where he says marijuana is no more dangerous than alcohol, and then they've had all this stuff, with the clemency stuff. They're sort of admitting that it's not worth going to jail for the rest of your life over these small things, and yet then you have marijuana in the same category as heroin. So I think it's going to play itself out over the next year or so. But I think the one lesson that I've learned from this is it's okay to say that you're pro legalization or decriminalization, and you're not going to take any political hits for it.
Yeah. I think Arthur's right. They can't go too far too fast, but it's never.
Well, they could. Sure. They don't want to.
Sure.
Yeah.
It would be hard.
Before we move on, let's say hello to Mike out in Waukegan, Illinois. Hey, Mike. Hey, good morning.
How you doing, Bill? How you doing?
All right, great. Thanks for calling in. What's up?
I just wanted to say that, allowing citizens, adults anyway, to drink alcohol and forbidding them to smoke pot is like swabbing the condemned death row prisoner's arm with iodine before inserting the lethal injection needle.
Makes about as much sense.
Yeah, right. It really does. And I'm with you. I think we should dismantle the DEA ASAP, and it was founded by an alcoholic, paranoid president, and that's it. I mean,
which president do you have in mind there?
Nixon.
Oh,
did you know that he deputized Elvis
Presley?
Right.
Yeah,
Elvis Presley came to the White House wanting this honor, and he was wearing a cape.
Yep.
And he brought the president as a gift a gun.
That's right, man.
Insanity.
I brought you a gun, man.
The DEA last week or 2 weeks ago was saying in testimony before Congress, one reason we've got to worry about these states' new pot laws, like in Colorado, is the danger they pose to people's pets. Because people's dogs and cats are, eating the marijuana edibles, and it suppresses.
I thought they were inhaling the secondhand smoke.
It's not dangerous for a dog or cat to eat the marijuana. However, because it suppresses their vomiting reflex, the chocolate, the drug is embedded in, is a huge threat to the dog. So, pet emergency room visits were going up.
On that little note, hey, Mike, thanks so much for the call. By the way, that photo of Nixon and Elvis is a classic photo.
It's a treasure.
And it is the #1 bestseller at the Nixon Library.
I'm sure.
In the gift shop. Yeah. They sell out of that photo.
Really?
Yes.
Like they're proud of that?
Oh, they've got it up there.
I think they realize they can make a lot of money off of that.
Elvis was playing
people just buy it.
Two shows a night in Vegas, and his manager, the Colonel, had him full of drugs.
That's right.
So that he could sustain.
Hey, Elvis didn't do no drugs.
Oh, no.
That's right. He also didn't write any songs.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Don't you say I did drugs. I'll rip out your tongue.
By the roots.
By the roots. We got that little clip here. If we can
We'll have that when we come back.
All right, when we come back. All right, now you have some, drum roll. We have some breaking news here on the Bill Press Show this morning. Arthur Delaney here. This is something you will find nowhere else, has not yet been reported by Arthur Delaney on Huffington Post, but you're here with it this morning.
Exclusive Bill Press Show, Huffington Post /YouGov poll results. So we are a big fancy news enterprise, and we have our own polling unit.
Yeah.
This is a scientific poll, not a reader poll.
Okay.
But a real one with a weighted sample and all that stuff you'd expect.
From nothing less from Arianna Huffington.
So we asked people about the unemployment benefits and unemployment more broadly, and what they think Congress should do. And this is a question we've asked before, and I think the main headline is, even though Congress, their interest may wane a little bit in this, the unemployment rate goes down. They don't think it's as much of a crisis, but people have the same attitude, and 68% of Americans have heard a lot or a little about the lapsed unemployment insurance that 2 million people are missing out on right now. 49% say that benefits should be reauthorized, that long-term unemployed people who've been out of work for 6 months or longer should receive compensation. Only 26% say no.
26% say no. Why isn't 49%? Why isn't that higher?
I don't know. It's not.
Why do you think?
Well, there's 49% say they should keep getting the benefits.
Yeah.
26% say no. And then the rest say, I don't know. So there's a large number of people not having an opinion of this. And we didn't put the question as, do you agree with Democrats that we should do this? Do you agree with Republicans? We just said
the issue.
Open-ended. If people are unemployed for 6 months or longer, should they get help? And so 49% of people say yes. And one reason for that could be, and this is in another question, our poll, about 50% of people have been in that situation themselves, or a family member has. So that is potentially one explanation. If you've been out of work 6 months or longer, someone who has, how much it sucks and how much it's out of an individual's control. So among the people answering that question, 66% of Democrats said the long-term jobless should get help. Our crosstabs show. 31% of Republicans did. 45% of independents. And it was also Democrats, interesting, were more likely to know somebody who'd been out of work for 6 months or longer. Only 30% of Republicans knew somebody. So that's my theory. I don't understand why Democrats and Republicans would be more or less likely to know an unemployed person, because it affects so many. But I think that could explain why one side favors this more than the other.
Well, hold on right there, because we have to take a quick break. We'll continue. Breaking news here from Huffington Post this morning on the results of their latest poll. 49% of Americans saying, if you've been unemployed for 6 months or longer, you should get some help from the government until you can get a job. Arthur Delaney is here delivering the exclusive news. Your questions, your comments, 866-55-PRESS. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
All right, 11 minutes before the hour. Igor Volsky up from Think Progress in the next hour. Arthur Delaney here from Huffington Post with all the information from their latest poll on what Americans think about unemployment in general and extension of unemployment benefits in particular. Arthur, we were talking about Elvis and his strong views.
The drug warrior.
About Elvis didn't do no drugs.
Didn't do no drugs. No. But he was once accused of substance abuse, and he was not too happy to hear about that. Here he is at a concert. I forget where it was, maybe in Vegas.
In Las Vegas, man.
Las Vegas.
Probably where it was.
Probably.
Right,
talking to his audience about this accusation.
I got sick here that one night. I had 102 temperature. They wouldn't let me perform. From 3 different sources I heard I was strung out on heroin. I swear to God, hotel employees, Jack. Bellboys, freaks that carry your luggage up to the room, people working around, talking. And I was sick. I had a doctor, had the flu, and I got over one day. But all across this town, I was strung out. So I told him earlier, and don't you get offended, ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking to somebody else. If I find or hear the individual that has said that about me, I'm going to break your damn neck, you son of a bitch.
Not only that, he's not going to not just break your neck, he's going to do worse than that.
That is dangerous. That is damaging to myself, to my little daughter, to my father, to my friends, my doctor, to everybody, my relationship with you, my relationship with up here on the stage. It is dangerous. I will pull your damn tongue out by the roots.
Whoa! Actually, I had not heard this.
There you go. Pull your damn tongue out by the roots.
If you listen to Elvis's live performances, in Vegas and Hawaii and whatever, he's singing his lyrics, and then you'll hear him go, oh! Because he's on stage doing roundhouse kicks and karate. So he would be fearsome in a physical confrontation, but he'd probably have about 20 bodyguards. So it wouldn't come to that. Roundhouse kick from Elvis Presley to your face.
Yeah.
By the roots.
By the roots. So back to the poll here for just a second.
The poll.
So I'm curious. 50% of Americans say that they've been in the same boat at some point. That's huge.
It's almost 50%. 45% of Americans have either been jobless for themselves. Yeah, we're not just talking about jobless for more than 6 months.
That's huge. Yeah,
that is huge.
Or know
somebody who has.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing people don't realize: you always hear there are 11 million unemployed people, 4 million people out of work 6 months or longer. People don't people sometimes think that that's just the same 11 million people each month.
Yeah, right. No.
But in fact, it is not. There is a lot of churn within those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the way it churns is important to economists. For instance, the number of people who are out of work for a short period of time has been going down. But anyway, it's constantly cycling through. So that's why
there's so
such
many.
A vast number of Americans have experienced that.
Right. And you had one final question that
we asked just in general, should the long-term jobless get help? We also phrased the question more specifically and explained that Congress routinely provides long-term unemployment insurance whenever there's a recession, lets the benefits go away when the unemployment rate goes down. And we got actually the same, essentially, response when we put it more specifically. So it's a consistent response we get. 49% say people should get the benefits. We also asked, do you think the long-term jobless are trying to get jobs? 49% said yes. 35% said they could find jobs if they really wanted. And that sentiment's stronger among people who identify as
Republicans, yeah. Right, just clueless, totally clueless when it comes down to that. So this will be reported officially on Huffington now that we've broken the news here on the Bill Press Show. It'll be up on the HuffingtonPost.com.
A story by myself and my colleague Emily Swanson, who is with our pollsters, will be up today on HuffingtonPost.com on the front page.
All right, check it out, HuffingtonPost.com. Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, always good to see you, and we'll be back. Igor Volsky coming up in the top of the next hour.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Thank you. And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you. Oh, man. Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, Igor Volsky from Think Progress and Tyson Slocum from Public Citizen. How about it, Peter?
Call it what you will. Call it Bridgegate. Call it Bridge Ghazi. But Chris Christie's problems with the bridge have resulted in a very expensive problem. $314,000 in legal fees have been spent by Chris Christie to help with the Bridgegate problem.
To help him.
To help him.
Yeah.
To help him.
With his reputation.
That's it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. $300,000 didn't buy him a lot.
Not yet. No, hasn't paid off yet. That's for sure.
And Bridgegate is not over yet either.
Right.
Back with
This
Igor Volsky
is the
coming
Bill
up.
Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Tuesday, April 22nd. Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us here. It is the Bill Press Show. We are here in your nation's capital on Capitol Hill. About the only people around on Capitol Hill these days. The House and the Senate are still out of town on their extended Easter break. But we're here. We've got it covered. We'll bring you the news on Free Speech TV and on our video stream, youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. Well, President Obama, fresh from yesterday's big Easter egg roll at the White House. Oh, my God, you should have seen all the kids and families there yesterday. Today, he goes off to Oso, Washington to view the damage still and talk to some of the victims of that big landslide a couple of weeks ago. And then he will head off to Japan. First stop on his extended Asian tour. He'll be going to Japan, to South Korea, to the Philippines, and to Malaysia to reestablish the United States as a Pacific nation, to cement our ties with our allies there, and to work on new trade agreements in the Pacific. Very, very important trip. The president will be gone almost a full week. Yesterday, up in Boston, the marathon, a huge success. Everything went right. There were 36,000 runners, well over 1 million spectators, no problems at all with security. And then as the icing on the cake, an American won the men's marathon for the first time in 31 years. Boston is back. America is back. And the Department of Justice, a big surprise announcement yesterday that they are going to review and look for change in our sentencing guidelines for nonviolent drug offenses. Way, way overdue. So much to talk about this morning. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Good to have you with us this Tuesday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
And, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Happy Earth Day. How about it? Earth Day 2014. Love the planet. Give us some special love today. Good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Tuesday, April 22nd. Here we go with this Tuesday edition of the Bill Press Show on your local progressive talk radio station, on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV worldwide, our video stream at youtube.com/TawkrTV. Whether you're a listener or a viewer, we appreciate your being with us this morning as we run through the big news stories of the day with our special guest and with you, and then look forward to hearing from you about what it all means to you, to your family, to your community. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. And you're lucky this half hour to have a chance to communicate, to just get together with, sing Kumbaya with Igor Volsky from Think Progress Managing Editor. Hello, Igor. Good morning.
Good morning. I didn't know we'd be singing today.
I know. What? So
to warm up.
When are you gonna pull your troops out of the Ukraine, Igor? Come on.
Well, I like to give them some time there.
You
enjoy the food and the scenery.
You and Vlad.
Yeah. Well,
Do you think these are? I mean, they say now that from the photographs they could recognize that these so-called spontaneous demonstrators who just popped up in eastern Ukraine are really Russian intelligence officers sent in.
This is, the real AstroTurf is happening in Ukraine. I think it's the real. They've really perfected the AstroTurfing of the protesters.
Yeah, there is I think it's the New York Times this morning where John Kerry has accused Russians of using old tactics, in the Ukraine, and some military people are saying no. They're using very smart 21st century tactics, it's not a full-scale military operation. It's much more.
It's a riff on an old tactic.
Maybe.
But it's certainly been updated.
Like the Trojan horse?
That's it.
Very innovative.
All right. Igor is here with Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy. Hello, guys.
Hey, good morning.
Alicia Cruz on the phones, 866-55-PRESS. You know how to join the conversation. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, back on the job today, keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV and on TawkrTV. I don't know whether you heard, maybe you missed the news that Chelsea Clinton is pregnant.
Oh, I heard something about this. The Clinton baby, they call it.
Clinton baby, yes. And David Letterman, first time he had a chance last night. Of course, everybody's having a little fun with this news. We have had a lot of fun ourselves with the news. David Letterman's turn last night.
Hillary Clinton's going to be a grandmother. I guess we know that, right? Hillary Clinton's going to be a grandmother.
Of course, we're thrilled about it.
She's very excited about it. She's home right now knitting a tiny pantsuit.
As far as
never too soon.
I know.
She's really looking forward to having a grandchild and going to be taking the grandkid to Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina.
Earlier and earlier, you got to plant the seeds for those presidential campaigns.
Such a layup, but we're going to hear a lot of those.
Oh,
yeah. So Igor Volsky with us for this half hour. Tyson Slocum from Public Citizen joining us to talk Earth Day and Keystone Pipeline a little bit later, and then Hadas Gold from Politico will be here with the psychological profile of David Gregory. God,
oh my,
boy vey, can you believe it? Oof. We'll get into it with Igor, but first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news.
Please.
The Pope is pissed.
Oh, no.
The former Secretary of State to the Vatican, by the name of Cardinal Tarcisio Bertone, made clear that he was going to be moving into a new luxury 6,500 square foot apartment in Vatican City. This comes as the Pope has said that we need to be scaling back. The Pope himself lives in a very modest dwelling. The Pope has made clear to the Cardinal he is not happy about this, although the Cardinal is going to move ahead with his plans. He's tearing down the wall between two rooms to make a giant suite for himself. And
but this
we have a fight brewing. I wouldn't want to pick a fight with Pope Francis.
With Pope Francis, I wouldn't. But this comes on the heels of that one bishop who built this
Yeah, he got pushed out, right?
Yeah,
Bishop,
was
he
in
had some
Germany
nickname
or
there.
somewhere, and he
Bishop
built
Money
this
Pants or
palace, right?
Very something. It was very.
And he got so
rich
much
bishop.
criticism that he finally said, "Okay, fine, I'll sell the damn place," and he did. So this cardinal better, he could take that red hat away from him.
That's right. This is some very dirty money. New York University took a look at the DNA on dollar bills and found out that cash money, paper money, they identified 3,000 types of bacteria living on your paper money. Now, it's different on paper money than on, like, silver, coins, because they say that the body temperature wallet, right, which most gentlemen keep in their back pocket, it's a breeding ground for bacteria. Things that they found. Others, bacteria that were found on cash money. The bacteria that causes acne, gastric ulcers, pneumonia, food poisoning, and staph infections.
Now, how much cleaner are the credit cards? Because you swipe those everywhere. You give them to people to swipe for you. They're cleaner, I'm sure. But
they are cleaner, but because the problem with cash money is it's cloth, right?
Yeah.
Paper, cloth.
Oh, yeah, but look at, and it's changing hands. I mean, look,
it's changing hands.
You know that
you got to spray down those bills now.
You got to be dirty.
Both sides.
I use the debit card for most of my transactions these days, and I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And congratulations to Meb Keflezighi. He is the winner of the men's Boston Marathon yesterday. An American, by the way.
Finally.
Born in Eritrea, but he is an American. He won. He ran at 2 hours and 8 minutes, 37 seconds. For the women.
He's what, like 36, 39?
He's 38 years old.
38 years old.
38 years old. Dude's running winning marathons. And Kenyan Rita Jeptu won for the women. She set a new course record at 2 hours, 18 minutes, 57 seconds.
Couldn't believe that. I mean,
flying.
Yeah. I mean, 26 miles in 2 hours and...
2 hours, 8 minutes for him. 2 hours, 18 for her.
I think Paul Ryan issued a statement right after saying he could beat that time.
He could. Totally.
That's an old 2020 joke,
Well,
folks.
a friend of mine, it's been a while since we heard that one. A friend of mine ran it, and he's an excellent runner. And he did it in 3 hours, 40 minutes. I mean, to think that you're sprinting for 26.2 miles. That's crazy. That's crazy.
But what a great day. Glorious day yesterday. Yeah. Boston strong indeed. So, Igor, since the last time we talked, President Obama coming into the White House briefing room on Friday afternoon, unscheduled visit to announce that the sign-ups for Obamacare, not only 7 million, but 8 million.
8 million.
Not only met the goal, exceeded the goal. A little victory lap, but well-deserved. Are the numbers real?
I think they're real. It's not just 8 million. Those are the numbers in the exchange. You look at the numbers in Medicaid, which are about 3 to 4 million. You look at the numbers outside of the exchange in the remaining individual market. They're about, I think, 4 or 5 million. You add it all up, you're in
you have the kids who stay on their parents'
the kids and everyone else. I mean, you're in the double-digit millions. Yes.
Yeah.
We'll find out more details as in the months and hopefully weeks ahead. How many of those people were previously uninsured? What exactly is the mix of young to old? I think they released the numbers, and they're
28%.
28%. They're around where they were in Massachusetts at this point in time, so not bad. But you think about it in terms of, and we've talked about this, how far they've come and the political context within which all of this took place when Republicans were trying to undermine the navigators, the people charged with helping folks enroll every step of the way, trying to challenge all the advertising, all the get out and enroll campaigns. The fact that they're now at 8 million is really, truly astonishing. I mean, it'd be astonishing if Republicans acted like Democrats did during Medicare Part D and said, we'll help our constituents sign up. It'd be remarkable. But given that they overcame all these odds, with Republicans literally shutting down the government over this whole thing, and they still made it, is remarkable. Doesn't mean there aren't problems and challenges moving ahead, but in this chapter, this first initial enrollment, I think really a phenomenal job by this administration.
The other thing, the president took off after the governors, 24, 26 Republican governors, who still refused to accept the extended Medicaid. And the numbers that I saw, is, if I recall correctly, 5.9 million people who are eligible for Medicaid can't get it simply because these Republican governors.
That's really the next challenge. It's those
shut the door.
It's those 5 million people who earn too much to qualify for subsidies through the exchanges and don't qualify for Medicaid because the program isn't expanded. They're in this kind of GOP hole of coverage where they need it very much because A, they can't afford it, and B, just demographically, they have worse health outcomes than the general population, yet they have no real options. So outside of kind of pressuring Republicans to expand the program, and it comes with a lot of federal funding, so the states are spending very little and getting a very good deal because they're saving a lot of money from uncompensated care, because now that care is compensated. Lawmakers really need to figure out what they're going to do, because at the end of the day, this is precisely the kind of population Obamacare was supposed to serve. People, working Americans who can't afford coverage, they still need it.
So the big question, which we've been talking about here, is will Democrats now stand up, embrace Obamacare, talk about the good that it's doing, and then turn the tables on Republicans and say, so what do you want to do now? You want to take health care away from all these 12 million or 14 million or however many million Americans it is?
I mean, I've been trying to really figure this out because, look, on one hand, the more Democrats run away from the law, the less popular it's going to become, right? So you got to stand behind it. You voted for it. You're going to get attacked for it no matter what. You might as well embrace it.
And it is working.
And it is working. But you talk to some of the campaigns and they say, look, we understand that 30,000-foot message. But what you don't understand is that in our specific race, in our specific district, keeping some distance makes sense. And yes, while we're still going to be attacked for voting for the law, if it gives us a 1-2 point advantage, a small advantage. That small advantage may mean all the difference between winning and losing. So it's those two schools of thought that are going to be in play in 2014. President Obama on Thursday said Democrats should run on it. But what happens on every level in the race, I don't think you're going to see kind of a patchwork of some Democrats like Landrieu in Louisiana embrace it and others kind of doing that calculation in their area and saying, look, for us, 1 or 2 points is going to mean the difference between life and death politically.
I think they ought to come up with like 5 stories of people in their district who could never get health insurance before, for them or for their kids, because of some pre-existing condition or whatever, right? Or because they couldn't afford it. And how this has made a difference in their lives, and put those 5 stories out there. These are my constituents, and defy their Republican opponent to take that away from those people, because I think they're making a big mistake. But you're right. Some of them may choose still not to. On the issue, pardon me, we talked about Pope Francis before. The Pope said, he didn't say he was talking to American bishops, but he might as well have said that. He said to the clergy, Roman Catholic clergy, you got to stop talking so much about abortion and birth control.
Other things can happen,
and contraception, and maybe get back to the Gospels and the message of the Gospels about caring for the poor. I don't think the American clergy, the American bishops, have gotten that example. So Timothy Dolan, head of the U.S. Catholic Conference of American Bishops, has now come out supporting Hobby Lobby in their case. You've written about this.
Yeah, well, he was
Supreme Court.
Yeah, he was asked about it on Face the Nation, and he said, "Look, guys, I don't understand what the big deal is. I mean, you could practically go to 7-Eleven and pick up, whatever contraception you need. It's really not a big problem." Which to me is always, interesting.
Does he not know about the pill?
To hear celibate men kind of dispense advice to women about where they can and should go to buy their contraception.
Look, it's been the problem with the Catholic Church for the last 1,000 years.
Well, you can't go and buy the pill at 7-Eleven. You can't go buy an IUD in the 7-Eleven. And those are really, the IUD and another form of contraception are really a question in the Hobby Lobby case. It's not condoms, which is what he was referring to.
Yes.
That's not even a part of this conversation.
No, right.
And
exactly. But again, the ignorance on his part. I mean, he's the top bishop in this country. And he's sticking his nose into this. And wrong, there's facts.
Yeah, exactly. And, here they play an interesting role, the church. On one hand, they support the law for the most part. They have a problem with this contraception provision. They have a problem with some of the abortion elements of it all, but have said for a long time that they back universal health care.
Well, they back the principle.
The principle of universal health care, right. Some of the practices they have a problem with. But here, certainly, they're on the side of Hobby Lobby, a decision that's why coming in June. Oh, my goodness. In just a couple of months, we'll know where that all stands. But, yeah, he just can't help himself. And, I mean, the more kind of comments I think he makes about 7-Eleven, I think the more women across the country who actually use this stuff kind of roll their eyes and say, okay, church. Well, but now, there's this growing gap between Catholics, particularly American Catholics, and their social beliefs, and where the church still is far behind its constituents on these issues.
Well, the last poll, 95% of Catholic women said they have used some form of birth control in defiance of the church's official teaching on this issue. So with people like Dolan continuing to make dumb remarks like he has,
and
it may grow to 99%.
Yeah, in areas like same-sex marriage, where it's some 60-70% of Catholics who support it, and Dolan led the campaign against it in New York.
Igor Volsky here. Think Progress, thinkprogress.org. We'll be right back. Join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, here we go. It is 27 minutes after the hour now. Igor Volsky is here from Think Progress. We never get enough time to go through all the big stories that you're reporting on, right? It is. So you've got to check it out at thinkprogress.org. Make it your home page.
Please do.
Igor always asks. Igor, the biggest news, of course, of the century has been Chelsea's announcement.
Mm-hmm.
As you have
conveniently timed for the primary. God.
You have had a lot of fun with the right-wing reaction to this, right?
Oh, God, it's just been, predictable. I mean, we kind of all knew this would happen. We just didn't imagine they would actually say the things they're saying. Like, we thought they would, and but
they
now,
wouldn't dare, but yes, they do dare.
Yeah, you
right?
have everything from this guy at Newsmax saying that it was all planned and staged for Hillary's campaign in Iowa, that, of course, now everyone's going to be more sympathetic towards her, to conservatives saying, well, why are they referring it to as a baby and not as a fetus? Oh, they're so hypocritical. Why hasn't she aborted yet, basically?
That's like The Onion couldn't write anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Seriously, that is so funny.
Oh,
real reactions, folks.
Yes.
The Clinton derangement syndrome starts now.
That's it.
She hasn't even declared. Oh.
You mean Chelsea hasn't declared?
Right, or the baby. No one's declared.
No, she hasn't. Igor, always good to see you. Thank you for coming out all the way across town this morning. See you again soon.
Bill Press Show.
ThinkProgress.org.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Hey, good morning and welcome again to the program. 33 minutes after the hour now. Tuesday, April 22nd. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital, brought to you today by the National Education Association, the good men and women of the NEA under President Dennis Van Rokel. Teachers of America doing a great job in our public schools every day for every student, you bet. And you can find out more about their good work at their website, NEA.org. Boy, it is Earth Day 2014, and it's the 4th anniversary of the Deepwater oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. Those two, it's kind of chilling to talk about the two of them together. Tyson Slocum is the Energy Program Director for Public Citizen, great organization, Citizen.org. And Tyson, back in studio with us this morning. Nice to see you.
Hey, always great to be here.
Happy Earth Day.
Same to you.
What are we doing about Earth Day? How are we treating the Earth these days?
Not that great. You know, Congress isn't in session right now, which makes Washington, D.C. a really pleasant place to be in these days.
And probably the Earth is safer with Congress not in session.
Absolutely, particularly the House of Representatives. But what the problem here is that we still really lack a coherent national energy and climate program that would, in a meaningful way, take us on a transition away from fossil fuels and onto renewable energy, the kinds of things that we need to do to get greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels down.
Well, I've sort of lost track of where things are right now, but isn't there a big summit coming up that John Kerry's been talking about?
No. Yes. So there continues to be international negotiations, but without a real defined domestic energy and climate program, it's going to be unclear what the United States can really meaningfully offer. Now, the Environmental Protection Agency, under its 2007 authority given it to by the John Roberts Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court said the EPA must regulate greenhouse gas emissions under its existing authority. So they've already unveiled rules for not yet built power plants. And in June, the EPA is going to release rules over the existing fleet of power plants in America to start regulating greenhouse gas emissions. So that's good, but there's a lot of uncertainty with that process. There could be years of legal challenges, and it would be nice to have some sort of legislative certainty so that we can have a coherent plan moving forward.
But is there an effort, again, to have an international, global, or climate change treaty?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, those negotiations continue. The Obama administration is engaged on it. But I think one thing
the U.S. has still not ratified that, correct?
Correct. But we continue to negotiate this. But I think the only way we're going to get Chinese cooperation is if the United States already kind of has a plan in motion. And you know, climate change is global in nature. And the United States and the European Union could enact tough standards, but if China keeps building a new coal-fired power plant every week, it's not going to help much. We need to have a global approach to this, and having a real clear domestic plan is going to help.
The United Nations Commission on Climate Change, which came out with its report last week, talked about the dire consequences today, but still said there is time, there's hope if we act like right now, particularly on a carbon tax, which the president has proposed to Congress. Any chances of that?
I think it's going to rely upon some big fossil fuel companies to get behind it, because if it's just environmentalists that are talking about addressing climate change, the Tea Party and conservative Democrats and Republicans will just continue to marginalize those efforts. If we've got an ExxonMobil out there saying, look, we give huge fat returns to our shareholders from pulling oil out of the ground and selling it at $100 a barrel, but you know what? We have to acknowledge that this activity is contributing to climate change, and we need to play a leader as a responsible corporate entity to help create some solutions. And Public Citizen actually helped write the Climate Protection Act, which was introduced last year by Senators Bernie Sanders and Barbara Boxer. It would establish at the beginning a $20 fee on carbon, and 60% of the revenues raised from that fee on carbon would be directly sent back to families in the form of a monthly dividend to help offset the higher energy prices that result from pricing carbon, leaving billions of dollars a year to invest in sustainable energy infrastructure, weatherization to help moderate and low-income folks have more energy-efficient homes, to be able to afford to install rooftop solar, to invest in community-driven transit options and other sustainable transportation infrastructure.
And did you even get a hearing?
We have not received a hearing. So this is the challenge.
Yeah.
But all the listeners out there, you know, you can always call in to your member of Congress and your senator and say, listen, there's a good bill out there, the Climate Protection Act. You need to co-sponsor it. And you also need to lend your support to the EPA rulemaking process to regulate greenhouse gas emissions, because they're under attack. We can do this in a way that protects consumers and protects the climate. Public Citizen is leading that way.
And it's citizen.org. It's the public...
It's the Climate Protection Act.
That's right. I'm sorry. Climate Protection Act. Climate Protection Act. Now, 4 years ago, BP oil spill in the Gulf. What are we doing differently now because of that? And what have we learned from that?
No, we have not learned enough. In the wake of the BP oil spill, the House of Representatives in the summer of 2010 passed phenomenal, comprehensive overhaul of our drilling regulations. You have to remember that America's laws over offshore drilling were last written in 1978. The first deep water well on a submersible rig, like the Deepwater Horizon was done in 1994. So basically, we've got offshore oil laws for the typewriter era, right?
Yeah.
They're out of date. They don't reflect the current technology. And so the House of Representatives, at that point was controlled by Democrats, put together fantastic legislation. When it was sent to the Senate in the summer of 2010, the American Petroleum Institute, which is the lobby arm of big oil companies, and I would say next to the NRA, they are the most powerful lobbying force in America today. They issued a one-paragraph statement saying they were opposed to every provision in the bill. It never received a hearing in the Senate. That's the kind of power that the oil lobby has. Now, to the administration's credit, President Obama administratively and unilaterally conducted a number of positive changes at the agency, kind of broke up the agency into different parts to make it more accountable and transparent, and initiated a series of improved regulations that relied on independent third-party verification of some procedures like blowout well preventer testing and other things like that. The problem with this bill is that these regulations were done administratively. So a new succeeding presidential administration can come in and just wipe them out. We need to codify them into statute so that it makes them more permanent, and that's where Congress needs to step in. But right now what we're hearing from the House of Representatives is that we have too many regulations over offshore drilling. So there's really a collective amnesia that happens when you are flooded with oil money for your reelection campaign that is causing Congress to seek to undo the modest regulations we have today.
And they drive me crazy. I continue to see full-page ads and television, beautiful, warm, fuzzy television ads paid for by BP, which basically present BP as the most environmentally conscious, eco-friendly company that ever existed.
And not only that, but the ads
how they get away with this?
The ads portray them as a victim by unscrupulous Gulf residents who are taking advantage of genuine and honest BP. I kid you not. BP is claiming that the claims process, where we've got fishermen that still are suffering economically, there are still thousands of Gulf Coast residents that are experiencing continued health effects. You have to remember, the cleanup was not done by a bunch of professionals for the most part. The oil spill cleanup was done by fishermen and by people with boats in the area that BP hired to go out there with very little instruction, very little training, and very little protection equipment. So these people were exposed to crude oil fumes and to the chemical dispersants. These people still have health claims that BP is now fighting. So this is not a company that is acting as a responsible corporate citizen. And the Environmental Protection Agency, under its authority, suspended BP from getting new contracts, which includes new offshore leases, because the Gulf of Mexico is the property of the federal government and therefore owned by the American people. And the federal government temporarily leases access to companies to pull our oil out of the ground on our behalf. And so what...
so BP has no more permits? Or
Well, this is the thing. For less than a year, they were suspended from obtaining new ones, right? Because in November 2012, BP pled guilty, right, to almost 20 criminal counts, including 11 counts of felony manslaughter for the deaths of the 11 workers that day. So there was a lawsuit. BP filed a lawsuit against the EPA saying this suspension to get new Pentagon fuel supply contracts and new oil drilling contracts, it's unfair. And the British government even filed a legal brief on BP's behalf attacking U.S. Department of Justice and EPA actions that were unfair toward the London-based company. So you had the situation where I thought we declared independence and fought a couple of wars hundreds of years ago.
Did we win that war?
1812, I think, was the last time that we kicked the British out of our affairs. And here they are filing a legal brief, and weeks after that legal brief, we buckled and sided with the British government and with BP. So we won the war, but I guess they won the battle.
Or no, we won the battle. They won the war.
Yes, there you go. I had it backwards.
But do they have new drilling permits?
Yes. In fact, days after the decision to lift the suspension, there was, by sheer coincidence, a Gulf of Mexico auction, because what you do is you have an auction to get the leasing rights. BP won 43 of the tracts, and so they are once again the largest producer and leaseholder in the Gulf of Mexico just years after the Deepwater Horizon disaster.
We learned nothing. Oh, my. You know what? But, of course, an accident like that could never happen again. BP would never let anything like that happen again. Yeah, believe that. Tyson Slocum here from Public Citizen. Great job, great organization, citizen.org. We'll be right back. And what's the latest on the Keystone Pipeline? Tyson Slocum's got the answers.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour, we'll talk about the president's big trip to Asia. He leaves today. At the top of the next hour, and then Hadas Gold from Politico will join us to bring us up to date on all the media wars lately. Right now, visiting with Tyson Slocum from Public Citizen. He's their energy program director. So, Tyson, the State Department surprising us Friday. We've all been waiting for the other shoe to drop on the Keystone Pipeline. The State Department making its recommendation to the president, thumbs up or thumbs down. And we found out Friday we're going to have to wait a little longer because the State Department said they're delaying any final decision. Why?
Well, it's a really good move, and they're delaying it for two main reasons. One, they've received over 3 million comments from the public on whether or not to approve or reject this pipeline. And what the State Department is saying is we need to actually respect the democratic process and review all of these comments, and we simply haven't been able to do it, right?
Yeah.
So that's great. They're not just listening to a bunch of corporations or a handful of entities. They're actually going to be so that means that individual citizens taking an action to give their opinion on a major initiative, it's important to do, and so that's a great sign.
That's good.
But the second thing is, remember, the Keystone XL pipeline that's subject to this debate is running from Canada in Alberta, where the tar sands oil production originates, down to Nebraska. And there has been continued controversy within Nebraska. There have been some legal challenges that the state was unconstitutional by its state constitution in passing a law that expedited the use of eminent domain to put the pipeline into under people's private property. And so because the pipeline route in Nebraska might be changed, the State Department said, well, we don't know if we are doing an environmental impact statement on the final route of the pipeline. So we need to first figure out what is going to be going on in Nebraska before we can finalize our approval.
Does this make it more likely or less likely that they approve the pipeline?
I think it's less likely. Now, we have to understand that there is already a southern segment of the pipeline running from Nebraska
to
through
Texas.
Cushing, Oklahoma, down to Texas. Because we have to remember, we're already getting more than 1 million barrels of tar sands Canadian crude every single day into the United States. The majority of that has historically been refined in the Midwestern United States, in Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, for domestic consumption, right? The tar sands oil is turned into gasoline at these refineries, and in the Midwest, it really doesn't have many places to go other than the United States and the eastern part of Canada. What the Keystone Pipeline goal was to divert that oil away from the Midwestern refineries and down to the Gulf of Mexico. Why the Gulf of Mexico? So you could turn it into gasoline and export it out of the United States. The Wall Street Journal has a great article this morning saying that the United States is exporting record amounts of gasoline, 3/4 of it out of the Gulf of Mexico, that by next year we will produce more gasoline than we will use, right? Because we're exporting a lot, but we still import some on the East Coast. And so the fact of the matter is that, as the Wall Street Journal concludes, gasoline prices continue to go up because we're exporting all this gasoline. So what the Keystone Pipeline is designed to do is to facilitate the export of gasoline to get landlocked Canadian oil into international markets through U.S. Gulf Coast refineries.
Now, don't you, just have about 30 seconds, don't you agree that this decision also has a lot to do with putting this baby off until after the midterm elections?
Absolutely. That is definitely probably the third big thing here, is that this thing has been a political hot button for Democrats and Republicans, and pushing it off until after the election he sees as an advantage for some Democrats.
He who?
Obama.
Right. Thank you. Right. Because, I mean, the White House keeps saying, we had nothing to do with this, nothing to do with it. I just say, come on.
Of course he had something to do with it.
All right. Tyson Slocum, good man. Citizen.org. Check it out. Great organization, Public Citizen. They are there on the front lines of all these important issues every day. Thank you, Tyson, for coming.
Always my pleasure.
Thanks for your good work. We'll be back to tell you what President Obama's up to as he jets off to Japan today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go. Hour number 3 coming up. Hate to lose you on Free Speech TV, but that's their decision, not ours. We've got a good alternative for you. That's our video stream, TawkrTV, TawkrTV, which you can get from your iPhone, your laptop. your iPad or your desktop. So stay with us for the third hour when we will talk about the president's big upcoming trip to Asia starting today, and then talk media with Hadas Gold from Politico. All of that coming up in hour number 3. Stay with us.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new. If I could have an extra 5 years to live. You said 5, right? 5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much. I would get more hamsters. I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years. I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime.
I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna. I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed. If I had 5 more extra years to live, I would be the boss of all the chipmunks. Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas. I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
President Obama going off and leaving the White House this morning about 10 o'clock. First stop is Oso, Washington, where he will be meeting with victims of the big landslide there and making remarks at the firehouse in Oso, Washington. And then he will leave there and go right off to the first stop on his Asian trip, off to Tokyo from Washington.
This is the Bill Press Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
you wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to, not eligible for Social Security. So the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old, and I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. but only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed to where we're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Earth Day 2014. Happy Earth Day, everybody, and thank you for joining us. On this Tuesday morning, it is the Bill Press Show. We are here in our nation's capital on Capitol Hill, booming out to you live all across this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station. Good to be with you today, wherever you happen to be in this great land of ours, and good to be with you wherever you happen to be on the planet on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV. Here we go. We got it all covered. We'll tell you what's going on. You tell us what it means to you by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS or sending us your comments on YouTube at, on Twitter at BP Show.
You got it.
And on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. There we are. Got it all together. Our team in place here, Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey,
good
guys.
morning.
Good morning.
Tuesday.
Woo! Alicia Cruz there. She's waiting for your calls again at 866-55-PRESS and keeping us looking good on the video stream. Videographer, Cyprian Bolding. How about it? The president, yesterday, I was talking to the guys at the Secret Service when I went in the Northwest Gate yesterday. They were very happy at the Northwest Gate that they were not in charge of all the people. They didn't have to screen all the people coming through for the Easter egg roll who came through the south part of the White House.
Sure.
30,000 people there yesterday, the biggest event of the year for the White House. And as part of the festivities, President Obama read to a small group of kids who was reading Where the Wild Things Are. We saw a side of President Obama that we have never seen before. It's sort of like he was on the Broadway stage, not just reading this book, but acting it out for the kids yesterday. The classic book that we have all read to our kids.
Yeah.
And the president really got into it.
And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars. Let's hear your roars. And they gnashed their terrible teeth. Let's hear those. And they rolled their terrible eyes. Roll your eyes.
The president growling. There's a picture somewhere. There it is. It's on the front page of the New York Times this morning. Peter, we ought to tweet this out of the president when he's gnashing his teeth.
Oh yeah, yes indeed.
Yeah,
we'll
it's a great shot.
So funny.
That scare the hell out of you, man.
Yeah,
you little 2-year-old, you see a grown up looking at you like that.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know.
Watch it.
Better be careful. Kids are probably crying. All right. Hey, lots going on here. We're going to review the president's big Asian trip, which starts today with Yuki Tatsumi from the Stimson Center. And at the half-hour, Hadas Gold from Politico will be here to talk about all the latest media news. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
How would you like this on your vacation, Bill? This family was at the Longleaf Safari Park in England. It's a place you drive your car up close and personal with wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
So they're in the lion enclosure, and their car catches fire.
There are lions in England?
There are lions in England. At the zoo, their
the car catches fire?
fire.
Oh, no.
So they had to get out of the car.
No, you stay in the car.
Well, that's the thing. The wardens were saying, get in your car, and they were yelling, but our car is on fire. So what do? You stay in a burning car, or you get out.
Would you rather be burned alive or eaten by a lion?
Yeah, that's your choice. Luckily, however, the wardens were able to get in, get the family to safety. The lions didn't eat them. The car didn't burn them. Everybody's safe. The car, however, was not saved.
Oh, yeah.
What a way to go, man. I mean,
I'm telling you, I suspect the lions are starting that fire.
They're getting smarter.
There's some smart lions.
Look, who wants to eat, sushi? You can just cook it. Get a little grill going.
A little char.
You got them right there. Yeah. May 16th, Bill. May 16th in New York City. That is going to be Barbara Walters Day.
Oh.
Mayor Bill de Blasio was on The View, and he announced that May 16th will be known as Barbara Walters Day in New York City. So I don't know how you're going to celebrate, Bill, but you have plenty of time to think
I'll
about
celebrate
it.
by staying away from New York City, that's for sure.
I'll work on a Barbara Walters hair
I hope
impression.
it's only 1 year that they do it. I mean, I hope this is not going to be an annual holiday.
I don't think this is going to be an annual
All right,
holiday.
good,
No, I
good.
don't think so.
Not going to be like Martin Luther King Day.
That's right. I don't think that's going to be the case. And Netflix has announced that they are going to raise prices. They didn't announce how much quite yet, but it's going to be $1, maybe $2, maybe $3 a month for streaming customers. Now, here's something that not a lot of companies do. This will only be for new customers. So if you're already locked in to the Netflix plan and you're paying $7.99 or $8.99,
pretty
whatever
smart.
it is,
Pretty smart.
you get to keep that. But if you'd like to join Netflix, you will be paying more. They're going to be announcing what those new price increases are going to be probably next month. Yeah, it's currently $7.99 a month if you're a streaming customer.
Yeah. So, if you didn't sign up early, tough.
Yeah, tough.
Tough
Or
cookie.
do it now before they raise.
Yeah, right. 12 minutes now after the hour at 10 o'clock this morning, the president walks out on the South Lawn, hops into Marine One, off to Andrews, and from Andrews to Oso, Washington, to visit with victims and the community leaders there where that horrific landslide occurred a couple of weeks ago. And then he is off on his Asian tour. First stop, Tokyo. Yuki Tatsumi is a senior associate at the Stimson Center who joins us this morning. Hi, Yuki. Good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So what is this trip all about? What's the purpose of this president's trip, and where is he going?
Well, he, like you said, he first started going to Tokyo, and then he goes to Seoul, and then Philippines and Malaysia. Well, this trip is all about reassuring his Asian allies. Starting from Tokyo, all the 4 countries he's visiting and the entire region is very anxious about President Obama or his administration's commitment to what was known as Asian pivot or Asian rebalance of his foreign policy.
Right.
And they're especially worried nowadays because of his administration, legitimately so, taking a lot of time on the Crimea issue, and the Middle East is still, on the burner. So, Asian countries are overall very anxious about, whether he means what he says when he talks about Asia Pacific becomes the anchor of his, foreign policy or his administration's foreign policy for the next few years.
So it sounds like they're needing a little love, huh? They're not feeling the love from President Obama?
They need a little love. They, especially, if you recall last fall, President Obama was supposed to visit Southeast Asia for the APEC meeting, and because of the, budget showdown situation, he couldn't go. So that also kind of fueled the anxiety about, well, he says we're important, but are we really important? Because he just canceled that big trip. So this is a trip to, kind of tell everybody that don't worry, we love you, we care about you. So basically, visibly showing up at those in the region and articulate to, to the people in those countries directly that his administration is committed.
Well, President Obama, more than any other president, right, is poised to speak about the United States as a Pacific nation because he's a Pacific Islander, right?
That's a great point. He grew up in Hawaii. He lived in Indonesia.
Yeah.
When he was young. So yes, if for any president, this president is the perfect American president that the region can hope for when you talk about core or center of the U.S. foreign policy is really refocusing onto Asia Pacific region. So yes, he's the perfect guy to articulate it.
And what are the Asian countries looking for from the from the United States? Are they looking for new trade deals, for military, security, or what do they want?
I think what they're looking for, of course, those some country deals on trade or security cooperation arrangement. If that comes out, that's great. But I think above all, what the region really needs to hear is, especially because for the last several years, China has been very aggressive in Southeast Asia, in the South China Sea area or East China Sea area, kind of pushing the envelope in terms of what they can get in terms of fishery or territorial claims. And they are not hesitant to use physical force to make their point. So I think more than anything else, this trip is all about American president showing up in the region and say, we care about Asia, U.S. pays attention to what's going on in this region, and U.S. does not accept the types of behavior that we're seeing in South China Sea, which is basically making your point by using force.
Isn't it a statement in and of itself for the president to go to Asia and to go to Japan, to go to South Korea, to go to the Philippines, to go to Malaysia, and not stop in China? Now, I know the First Lady was there about a month ago. For the president to kind of ignore China, I mean, that in itself sends a message, doesn't it, or is meant to?
I don't know if the administration people who plans the trip meant it that way. I think they really wanted to make this trip about alliances and friendships and partnerships. So he goes to 2 islands in Northeast Asia, Tokyo and Seoul, and he goes to one ally and one emerging partner in Southeast Asia, Philippines and Malaysia. So it's really all about partnerships that U.S. enjoys in the region, and China is a little bit different case, if you will. Two countries work together on some issues, but there's still a very serious odds in some of the other issues that you mentioned. So I don't know if it's intended or not, but I'm sure Beijing is probably reading it in that way.
I would understand that. I mean, they are the 800-pound gorilla, if you will, in the region.
Right.
And we're saying we have partnerships with these countries, but not necessarily with China. The other thing that people are talking about is that there is a certain tension existing between the Japanese Prime Minister and the President of South Korea. How real is that? And is one of the president's goals to try to bring these two together?
I think, if you recall, a few weeks ago, President Obama met with Japanese Prime Minister Abe and South Korean President Park in Hague. And that was really the sole purpose of it, that, in his presence, by President Obama being in the room, two leaders can kind of have a face-saving way of being in the same room and kind of start from there. But I think the last thing he wanted to spend his time, both in Tokyo and Seoul, is to continue to try to mend the ties, between Tokyo and Seoul. He really wants to focus on each of the bilateral alliance issues that U.S. has with Japan and Seoul.
What are the issues? Ahead. What are the issues between them? I mean, what's the beef here? What are they fighting over?
Well, they are. This is in a sense, it's an issue of the past. So Japan, as you know, colonized Korean Peninsula. In 1910, Korean Peninsula remained as a Japanese colony until 1945 when Japan lost the war. After that, obviously Korea became an independent nation, but after the Korean War, it got divided, and then now we have the current setup. So during those colonial times, Japanese don't really treat the Korean people very well. There are some serious issues in terms of colony management, and also during the war there are certain things like a forced labor and what's known as comfort women. South Korean want to phrase it as sex slaves. That issue is the forced young Korean women forced into sexual service, provide sexual service to Japanese Imperial Army officers. And compensation issue is a big sticking point between the two nations.
I see.
Japanese argument is that when Japan and South Korea re-established the diplomatic relations as two equal nations in 1960s, the term of that term of that diplomatic reopening agreement settles that issue, meaning South Korean government, on behalf of South Korean people, kind of forsake the right to pursue compensation cases for these individuals who suffered under Japanese rule. But obviously now, because South Korea back then was a military democracy, military authoritarian government, and it's a vibrant democracy right now. So a lot of the people looking back those times have said that government didn't really reflect our will.
Yeah. Well,
so the Japanese government should do more. Things have changed. So that is really the sticking point between the two.
I hear you, and now that you have explained it, I understand why the president does not want to get in the middle of it. I think he's making the absolute right decision. Well, it's an historic trip, a very, very important trip, and we understand a lot more what it's all about. Thanks to you. Thanks so much, Yuki. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me this morning.
Yuki Tatsumi with the Stimson Center. She's a senior associate there. It is Stimson, named after the great diplomat Henry Stimson, stimson.org.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach
likes
your
you.
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, big news on the criminal justice front yesterday at 26 minutes after the hour with Hadas Gold joining us from Politico for the next half hour. And by the way, I mentioned it is Earth Day 2014. I just noticed that Eddie Bauer today, this is cool, to celebrate Earth Day, at Eddie Bauer, for every purchase anybody makes in their stores or online, they're planting one tree today.
That's really cool.
Earth Day. Isn't that cool? Yeah.
I thought to celebrate, you'd notice I brought in some freshly roast baby panda for Earth Day.
Oh, no, that's horrible.
No Earth Day, sick Earth Day jokes allowed on this program. Thank you. Yes, all right. But it would be nice if everybody could think of one thing you could do to help save the planet on Earth Day. That is what it's all about. As I mentioned, big news on the criminal justice front in that at the briefing yesterday, Jay Carney announced the White House had directed the Attorney General to start a review of clemency petitions from people who are in prison on non-violent drug-related charges. Just shows how out of whack our so-called drug on war has been for decades. Here's the Attorney General saying what it's all about.
The White House has indicated it wants to consider additional clemency applications to restore a degree of justice, fairness, and proportionality for deserving individuals who do not pose a threat to public safety. The Justice Department is committed to recommending as many qualified applicants as possible for reduced sentences. There are still too many people in federal prison who were sentenced under the old regime and who, as a result, will have to spend far more time in prison than they would if sentenced today for exactly the same crime.
The Attorney General saying this could take a couple of years, but as they review these cases, are going to make these recommendations to the president. Again, people who are serving long sentences, much longer than they should, if they shouldn't probably be serving any time at all, for first-time drug offenses, no gang-related, not related to any big drug operation, not dealers at all. People should not be in prison. And it could result in thousands of people being released from federal prisons. What a welcome sign.
This is the Bill Press.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour. It's Tuesday morning. Tuesday, April 22nd, Earth Day. And one thing about people in the media, we love to talk about ourselves. And sometimes, actually, people in the media make news, and so it's worth talking about. Now, for either one of those reasons, Hadas Gold is here from Politico, working with Dylan Byers in his vast army of people covering the media at Politico. Yeah, that's right. Hi, Hadas. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, always good to have you back. So the Pulitzer Prize going to the Washington Post and to The Guardian for its coverage of the Edward Snowden documents, the release of those documents. Did they do the right thing, or were they rewarding treason?
Many people would say that they're rewarding treason, but it was one of those awards like, how could you not give it to them? Because when the Pulitzers, they're both rewarding good journalism, but they're also rewarding stories that really change the world, change the way we do things. Now, a lot of people argued that really, they didn't do a lot of work for these documents. They just landed in their laps. This isn't the traditional shoe leather reporting. And actually, Jay Carney made this kind of backhanded comment at them, being like, I think the best awards go to the shoe leather reporters. And, you know.
Like him.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I mean, it was completely expected. Glenn Greenwald over the weekend said that it was very gratifying to do it. And it was, the bigger story would have been had they not won the Pulitzer. Or a Pulitzer.
It was the story that most changed the way what we know about our government, right? And the way the government operates. I mean, look, we have had congressional hearings, you've had a presidential investigation, you've had court cases, there will be more court cases. It's an international case
now that he's in Russia. It's huge.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I mean, and it completely falls in line with...
And we have a Senate investigation, and the Senate is fighting now with the CIA and the NSA.
Right.
I mean, you know, hello.
I mean, and we think about all the previous big stories like this, like the Pentagon Papers, like Watergate, it perfectly fits in with these stories of how big the story was and the impact that it had. And we will be talking about this for decades to come, so it's not a surprise that they got it.
And to Jay Carney's point, the report, the award went not to the individual journalists, but to their publications.
Yes, and to the team.
And to the team. And there was a very serious decision made there as to whether or not to publish. Others may have made the decision not to publish, right? So they had the courage to say, no, the public has a right to know what their government is up to.
Right.
Therefore, we're going to publish these documents.
And the publications argue that they
Bingo.
had to do a lot of work because they're just given these
Oh,
thousands
yeah,
of documents
yeah.
and had to work through them and sift through them and understand them before they could publish. So they say that we didn't do shoe leather reporting in terms of running around the world, gathering sources everywhere, but we did our own shoe leather reporting sitting in a darkened room cut off from the rest of the world.
Yeah. Now, Meet the Press. Paul Fiery from the Washington Post over the weekend had a big story about Meet the Press. It's fallen to third place among the Sunday shows. No longer number one under David Gregory, behind Face the Nation and behind This Week with George Stephanopoulos. And NBC is so concerned about that. That they have done all kinds of testing, including, Paul Fiery reported, hiring a psychologist to come in and talk to David Gregory and to David Gregory's wife and to David Gregory's, family, parents, whatever, to try to get to know this guy, to try to see if that could, knowing him that way would help them get Meet the Press back at number one in the ratings. I mean, what's really going on here?
This was a really interesting story that was published, I think, late Sunday, but it was in Monday's paper. And it was going along this whole line about Meet the Press has been really sliding in the ratings recently. And they've been
which it has.
Yeah, which they've been having some trouble. And Paul Fiery got this wonderful just nugget that NBC had hired this company, what he called a psychological consultant, to come in and talk to them. Now, when this was published on Monday, NBC pushed back and they said, no, it wasn't a psychological consultant. It was a brand consultant. And eventually they gave us the name of the consulting company. And they said it was just part of the overall brand that is very common to do when you have a personality-driven news show. Still, Paul's reporting still stands because he did check twice with NBC on Sunday. Is this okay? Use the word psychological consultant. And they didn't object at that time. They are slightly objecting now. They're saying it's part of
now they said it's a branding consultant, not a psychological consultant.
And you know what? Like in any branding consultant strategy, I wouldn't be surprised if there are many psychological elements to it where they do interview everyone and it's to, see how the host is most comfortable, what situations make him the most comfortable, like how can they arrange the show or et cetera to make it the best. I mean, at this point, the way the story is going right now, it feeds into that storyline that Meet the Press is struggling. If this is the story, the headlines that we have right now, over arguing between psychological or brand consulting.
Yeah. Right. Now, I've had a little experience in television,
Yes.
okay? Now, I did 9 years as a commentator in Los Angeles before I came to Crossfire. I was 6 years at Crossfire and a couple of years then on MSNBC with Pat Buchanan, all right? And during all that time, our ratings, this is very important. Every day we would check as what our ratings were the night before. But I must say, they never said a shrink in, to talk to me or to my wife or to anybody else as to why I wasn't connecting better. Our ratings were either up or down. Sometimes it was the time of the year, whether it was an election year or not, or the topics that we did. Often it was the topics that we did. Some topics we'd get sky high. The next day, boom, though we didn't do that topic anymore, right? But really, is this unusual or is this normal fare for anchors?
Though NBC and the networks will argue that it's normal fare, these shows are literally anchored on these one person. That's why they are called the anchor. They're the personality. And I think that a network will do whatever necessary. They'll try anything to get their ratings up to make sure that they are still winning. But it's something that's happening to all the Sunday shows. All the Sunday shows are dying.
Isn't it? I'm just thinking about, what if they tried to do this with Walter Cronkite? Can you imagine what he would have told them?
Right.
Yeah, you shove it, right? And with David Gregg, it is possible, isn't it, that some people are really good in one role and not so good in another. No doubt about it. David Gregory is one of the best White House reporters ever. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's not meant to be anchor of Meet the Press for whatever reason.
He also had really
big shoes. And if he doesn't cut it, a shrink is not going to help it.
Right.
Seems to me.
Anybody following Tim Russert is going to have some trouble.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Tim was so good and so strong.
So does David Gregory survive this?
They've doubled down on him. He re-signed his contract. They've said multiple times in the past few months, we're not He's not going anywhere. And it's not even like some of the other networks we've seen, like Martha Raddatz, I think, is coming in and starting to split some of the Sunday hosting duties with George Stephanopoulos. And we're not seeing any of that at Meet the Press. So he's going to stay where he is, and they're going to keep trying. But Dylan had a great piece up last night about how all the Sunday shows are struggling. People, they don't have that same prominence that they used to have anymore. So it might not even necessarily be David Gregory. Sure, it might be David Gregory, and Bob Schiefer might be.
My prediction, by the way,
yes,
they're going to put Luke Russert in, which is a horrible idea. But I just think the fact that they got a Russert in there is like a last-ditch effort to save it.
Not going to happen.
I know.
Yeah.
Not yet. I don't think so.
Right.
Luke is great, but not yet.
No, but you make a very, very good point. I mean, I can't tell you how just me, I'm not saying I represent the American people, but I think there are a lot of people like me. There was a time when I would never miss
right.
Nightline every night. The time when I would never not read the weekly news magazines, Time and Newsweek, cover to cover. And there was a time when I would never miss the Sunday morning shows, right?
Yep.
I don't pay attention to any of them anymore. None of them.
Mm-hmm. No, nobody does. Very, very few people
Why
do.
do you have to watch, This Week? Or why do you have to watch Meet the Press?
You don't. It's because also now what we're seeing is that the administration doesn't send nearly as many people onto these shows as they did before.
Right.
The only people who send to go on are like John McCain and Rand Paul. I swear they're on them every single week.
Oh yeah.
And they're spouting the same things we've heard them say the whole week before.
That's the thing with the 24-hour news cycle now. You know everything.
Right.
By the end by Sunday morning, you know everything. I can't remember the last time anything new has been said on a Sunday morning show.
Susan Rice, when she went on after Benghazi, that's I think the last thing I can think of that was like really changed a lot from a Sunday show appearance.
Yeah, almost 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, also it's like why? I mean, I'm in my 20s. Why would I wake up early on a Sunday morning if I can just watch the clips later in the day?
True.
We have a team of reporters at Politico, the rotating team, that report on the Sunday morning shows. They just write up all the newsy pieces and put it up on the website. So we're kind of stealing away that audience and say, just read us later. Don't wake up before 11 a.m. if you don't want to.
I mean, from the aspect of what we do, right? Like when we started this show 9 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we had we had several TiVos set up to get all of the
Sunday morning shows and everything.
We had a member of the staff who would sit and go through them.
Yes.
And we just don't do that anymore.
No need to.
Yeah, not at all.
And for most people, I think that's the case as well. Right. All right. Hey, things are changing. So Meet the Press this week. Face the Nation. Do you watch any of them? Do you care? 866-55-PRESS. Hadas Gold here from Politico. We'll be right back. Take your calls. Continue our conversation.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
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 Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
13 minutes before the top of the hour, talking media matters. That is media affairs.
Matters of the media.
Matters of the media here with Hadas Gold from Politico. Cheryl Atkinson saying Media Matters was paid to go out and attack her, right?
Yeah, she talked about that on Sunday with Brian Stelter.
Yeah. It's 12 minutes now before the top of the hour. I thought one of the most interesting pieces on the media that I've read recently was your colleague, Mackenzie Wenger, with Ken Vogel at Politico, about right-wing talk radio and their relationship with the Tea Party.
Right.
That the Tea Party is not only promoting their candidates on conservative talk radio, but paying big money to get people like Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, who are the others? Mark Levin, Laura Ingraham, right? To interview their candidates and to basically endorse their point of view.
It's kind of a big cycle, or a big circle of, well, they'll pay to advertise on the network or something like that and pay these people, and then they'll have the candidates on. They'll support the Tea Party, support these candidates, and you just keep going around and around. And that story actually got quite a bit of pushback from them. Mark Levin, my favorite, he wrote on Facebook that Ken Vogel is sleazy. And I was just walking around to Ken. I was like, hey, sleazy Ken. He loved it. It's kind of funny for him to call Ken sleazy. Based on what this is being reported.
No, but what stuns me about that is, like, we have candidates on here all the time, right? I wouldn't think of asking some campaign fund to pay us to interview a candidate. I mean, I must say, if they offered, and I'm sure I'm speaking for Ed Schultz and Tom Hartman and Stephanie Miller and everybody else who's on Progressive Talk Radio, if they offered us money to interview a candidate, we wouldn't take it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure.
The whole concept to me is repugnant.
I think from what I understand, from my understanding of speaking with the two, and from reading the story, is that it was not exactly a direct exchange of funds, but it's part of the general cycle of they'll advertise on the show.
They were spending like millions of dollars. So, and look, some of that money went into Sean Hannity's pocket. I mean, they may have been buying ads, and so some goes to the consulting firm or the advertising agency for sure, right? And some goes to the network. A deal of that's going into Sean Hannity's pocket. Do you agree?
Absolutely. It has to. Where else is it going?
No.
To Glenn Beck's movie studio.
That's right.
Right.
3 movies now.
Let's say a quick hello to Maria out in, talk about a great progressive talk radio station, 92.1 in Madison, Wisconsin. Hi, Maria.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. What's up?
I used to watch Meet the Press from the 70s with my dad, and we would watch it every day. And I loved Tim Russert, but it is David Gregory. He is the problem.
Yeah.
I there's no hold bars. I can't stand to watch it with him.
Well, I think, when it gets to that point, you can't fix it, right?
Right. No, you can't fix it. I want Rachel Maddow. She would be awesome. I want them to put Rachel Maddow on there.
All right. Listen, I'm for Rachel Maddow, too. The problem is she's got a contract with another network. It might be.
Well, same network? Yeah, same.
Oh,
MSNBC.
well, yeah, that's right, too.
A lot of people are talking about Chuck Todd, too. They want to see Chuck Todd in the host chair, Meet the Press. I would love to see a woman to take over one of those main ones. So
Sure. Yeah. Chuck Todd. Let's start the little circle going here, huh?
Yeah, look, Chuck Todd's fine at what he does, but I think you got the same problem as
Chuck is
David
a great
Gregory.
reporter.
Sure.
And their political director, there's nobody better, but I'm not sure in that chair.
Yeah.
It takes a special talent in that chair. I have to ask you about the Supreme Court in a couple of hours is going to hear a big case, media case, concerning a company called Arrow. Which tell us what they do.
So Arrow is a media company that grabs those free broadcast waves that the broadcast network sent out, and they, just like if you have an antenna in your house, you can watch TV for free. They grab that and then they digitize it and send it to their consumers who
make money off it.
Yeah, they pay like $12 a month. It's kind of like Netflix, but with broadcast TV.
So the big networks, NBC and CBS and ABC, all oppose what Arrow's doing. Yeah, right.
They say,
and they're fighting them in the Supreme Court. Right. What's going to happen if Arrow wins?
Well, I mean, they say that Arrow is stealing from them because the cable companies have to pay fees in order to get these shows or these broadcast waves. And they say that if Arrow wins, if it's determined that they are allowed to do this for free, the broadcast networks say they're going to take those hit shows like ABC Scandal off of their broadcast channels, move them to the cable channels, move them to any of their other networks that you have to pay to get to no matter what. That's what they're threatening if this happens. I mean, in today's environment, I don't even know if that really matters that much because everybody has Netflix and Hulu and whatnot, and they'll watch it that way anyway. I think it's the broadcasters fearing the change of the digital revolution or something. It's really unclear what's going to happen either way. This is one of the biggest cases we've seen recently when it comes to media.
And could really change the way network television works. Really could. Hadas Gold, great stuff. Lots to talk about this morning. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Thanks for coming in.
Me.
All right. At Politico.com. My parting shot coming up next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning if you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
You know, I don't get it. At our briefing yesterday, Jay Carney insisted that the White House had nothing to do with the State Department's decision to delay any decision on the Keystone Pipeline until after the midterm elections. Plus, Carney also insisted that politics had nothing to do with that decision, which I don't believe for a minute. Look, clearly it was a political decision to put that issue on the back shelf until after November. And you know, a big political decision like that would never have been made by the State Department without first checking with the White House. Because the last time I checked, at least, the Secretary of State works for the president, not vice versa. So I think the White House ought to just admit we didn't want to piss off either supporters of the pipeline or opponents of the pipeline. So, yes, we told the State Department to put off any final decision for a few months. And yes, you bet it was a political decision like everything else in Washington. So what? That's my parting shot for today. You guys have a great Tuesday. Make the most of it. Have a lot of fun. And then come back and see us right here again tomorrow morning. We'll be looking for you.
This is the Bill Press Show.